If you live in the St. Louis metro area, we have some fun vacation ideas for you. That's coming up next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter. Welcome to City Corner. Well, if you're like me, you're anticipating spring and you've got some vacation ideas in your head, and we have somebody here today that will help us get some ideas in that direction. Please welcome Joe Lange of Joe Lange Travel in St. Louis. Hi, Joe. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I know summer's not officially here yet, but it's around the corner, isn't it?
It is really around the corner. Yes, it's coming up a lot faster than we think.
You're in the travel business. Are there really, during the year, certain popular travel times besides summer?
Steve, it's really interesting because nowadays, every day is a popular travel day. In fact, more and more people these days are planning further and further in advance. For one example, with river cruising, as an example, all kinds of river cruising, whether it's domestic or international, people are booking out as far as almost 2 years in advance because of the demand and the capacity.
How far do you need to book a vacation ahead of time, as a general rule, though, to be safe?
As a general rule, I think you need 6 months or 9 months is a general good rule of thumb, and there are a variety of factors why. So one of them is airline availability and capacity. And the other one is whatever is on the land, and there are a lot of different varying factors as well.
Well, we want to talk about first, we'll get into some other things in the second half of the program, but for people living right here in the St. Louis metro area, they may not realize there are some really neat cruises and vacations they can take without, going across the country.
Oh, absolutely. Don't even need to get on an airplane to do it.
Right.
It's right in our back door, whether you live in the greater St. Louis area or over in nearby Illinois.
Well, where do the cruises start if you're in the St. Louis metro area? Where are the boats?
So the river cruise boats actually stop right here in St. Louis. Now, actually, for a period now, the boats have been stopping over in Alton because of the construction which has been taking place down at the Arch for the last couple of years. They may actually return to the Arch at some point.
I've seen them on the Alton Riverfront.
Yeah,
this last
right
year
there.
Or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to look at a couple of. Well, here's an image right now of one of the boats. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's the American Queen Steamboat Company, and you can see by this picture that she brings back the days of Mark Twain, which everybody remembers from their history lessons, of course. And she sails down the river, and she's going to go places like Hannibal, which is, of course, near St. Louis, and she's going to go up the river all the way to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And
are any of these like day trips? Would Hannibal be a day trip, or do you stay overnight there too?
You actually stay overnight on the boat itself, and anywhere from 3 to 7 to 10 nights.
We've got a couple of images I want to look at. One is entertainment that's happening on the boat. People might think that all you do on a boat is, sit on the deck and look at the river.
My goodness, no. There's so much to do on the boat. You have the entertainment like you see here. You have the Riverlorian, who talks all about the river, all up and down the river when you're taking the trip. You have the incredible gourmet cuisine. You have the beautiful views of the Mississippi.
Speaking of that, we have a shot of the dining room, I believe, and the cuisine's not only beautiful, the room looks pretty good too.
Yeah, well, as you can see by this picture, everybody is out on the deck because they're not in the dining room or they're off on an excursion. And I'll tell you something about the excursions real quickly.
Yes,
with the American Queen Steamboat Company, they actually have their own motor coach buses that follow the boat up and down the river. And when they make a stop, such as in Hannibal or other places, you just simply hop off of the boat and hop off onto their tour bus, and they take you all around that area and bring you back.
Are there any options? Sometimes if you're on, do you have an option of maybe going on a tour bus or going out on your own, or is that different, just depends on the company or the trip?
yes, you can actually take selected optional shore excursions, and you can sign up for those. Or if you would simply like to get off of the boat and walk around and do your own tour by yourself, you can absolutely do that.
Well, Joe, what are some other good destinations from St. Louis? You mentioned Hannibal and somewhere else.
So there's Hannibal. I have my little cheat sheet
That's
here
okay.
with me today.
I've got one too, Joe.
And of course, Cape Girardeau, which everybody knows about, of course. So that
you need to educate me, though. Why would I want to cruise to Cape Girardeau? I never would have thought of that.
You know, there are so many things in Cape Girardeau that I didn't even know about. The African-American Civil War history, the Bollinger Mills Century Mill, Fort D, the Glen House Historical, built in 1883, the old Laura Meyer Cemetery. These are just a few of the things that you might see in Cape Girardeau, for example. You wouldn't even have time to visit all of them. You'd have to go back.
So if you're talking about something close like Hannibal or Cape Girardeau, is that just a one-night thing then? It would be a two-day vacation?
Usually with the boat, it's usually a one-night stop, and then it moves on to the next, similar to what a big cruise line would do usually.
Do the boats vary a lot from company to company or excursion to excursion, or are they all kind of consistent?
They're fairly similar. There are a couple of them with the American Queen Company. There are a couple of other companies out there as well. And by the way, there are some of the riverboats that actually operate off the West Coast also.
Okay. I want to show some more interiors of the boat because obviously you're on it for a long time. And we have, I think, a lobby shot next. And that looks awfully comfortable. That looks like a, what'd you call it, a smoking room in the old days?
It's very comfortable. It has, and it has all the modern amenities. It has a, for example, a help-yourself espresso bar kind of setup, or soft drinks you can help yourself to, or magazines, and a reading room, and even a library, actually.
This next shot is something that I would put on my list.
Oh yeah, the spa, of course, very popular. Always.
So massage or something.
Of course.
Are options like massages or other things, are those optional add-ons, or? The
massages would be an add-on. So with your riverboat experience, your cruise package would include, of course, your cruise cabin, all of your meals and entertainment, and the complimentary motor coach tour at each stop along the way.
Well, besides Hannibal and Cape Girardeau, what's another suggestion leaving from St. Louis?
Well, here's one. This is very interesting. I'm not even sure that I knew where this was before. Well, Alton, of course, you're very familiar with that. But Havana, Illinois.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so that one's on the way to Chicago. Great for nature lovers.
What is that, on the Illinois River or something?
It is not, it might be on the Illinois River. I believe that might be right. It has the Nature Conservancy, it has the Chautauqua National Wildlife Refuge, it has the Havana Nature Center, it has the Dixon Mounds Museum. Again, these are just a few of the things that you might see over in Havana, Illinois if you stop over there.
What about price, Joe? How much variation is there on price of it? Can you give me like a range of what would be the most inexpensive cruise I might find, and how high that might go, and particularly ones that are based in St. Louis or from St. Louis? So
for the river, which is more of a boutique kind of a cruise, and when you start getting into boutique cruising, prices are higher than an average ocean cruise. So those may start at somewhere around $19.99 per person, for example, for the cruise package. And then they go up from there, depending on the type of cabin you have, whether it's an inside cabin that doesn't have a window, all the way up to a beautiful 2-story penthouse balcony.
Wow. Can you put in a good word for me?
Absolutely.
That sounds pretty good. Well, one thing I'm hearing from you, Joe, is you have a lot of options as far as how far you want to go, and I don't mean distance-wise, but what you want to spend and what kind of amenities you want.
You have so many options, Steve. There are. Just take a look at the Mississippi River and crisscross, from here, New Orleans, Memphis, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and you will actually see on the map all of the different stops, where the American Queen will be.
All right, so leaving from St. Louis, how far can you go? All the way to like Minneapolis, or New Orleans, going the other directions,
sure.
I guess, right?
And by the way, Minneapolis, one of the neat things about that cruise are all the locks and dams, where the boat slips in and the water fills up or it goes down.
Now, see, I think that would be like a hassle boring, but you're saying it's not.
Oh, people love it. It's the coolest experience. It's very cool.
Just to see it from that vantage point, I guess.
Just to see it while you're on the boat, yeah.
We've got a shot here of, I think, a sitting room on one of the vessels.
Yeah, another one of the sitting rooms, card rooms, lounges, all different kinds of rooms. I don't know if we have a shot of the theater today. I don't know if that was...
Well, the first one, there was a performance.
Oh, that was the theater. Okay,
yeah, right.
That was it. That's right, yeah.
And let's look at the next one, I think, even if you're looking for something to take home and give someone, right?
Of course, you can't possibly go on any cruise without the gift shop.
Jewelry and stuff, what kind of things do you find in a gift shop on a cruise ship?
Well, their cruise gift shop is actually pretty small, so it has a few knickknacks and then a few, you know, necessities, those kinds of things that you might leave at home, like your toothbrush and so forth.
So most of these cruise ships have a gift shop, they have sitting rooms, they have the dining room, they have like the spa. Are there any other interesting areas that we haven't, things about a boat we haven't covered yet?
Well, you know, the American Queen and a couple of the other steamboats out there, they are unique. There are very few of them. Years ago, there were many of these boats on the river, quite a few of them, and for a variety of reasons, transportation. There's a great shot of the paddle wheel of the American Queen back there, and that's a very popular deck off the back. People love to go and stand back, and you can see the calliope sticking up at the top where they play the music too. But it's transformed over the years from boats, little boats, which were really part of the transportation system on the river, now to passenger pleasure cruises.
Who are the typical travelers these days? Maybe you can't even answer that. I'm just wondering, are they older couples? Are they people with families, or is it just everything?
Most of the population that travels on the American Queen steamboat, they will be in the, I would say, 55 and older range. That's generally what
I know some of those people.
Yeah.
Joe, we're going to take a break in a minute, but when we come back, you brought along someone, and who did you bring along and why?
Yeah, I did. Mary Murin from Tauk, one of the world's leading tour companies.
So Tauk would be a company that like Joe Lange Travel works with, and you probably work with dozens of those kind of companies, I guess?
I do work with several of them, yes.
Okay. So we've talked mostly about trips from St. Louis so far, but we're going to expand our reach with Mary, right?
Oh, we're going to look all over the world.
All right. More on some fun vacation ideas coming up next on City Corner. Stay with us.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome, innovators, dreamers, pioneers of the 21st century. We've been expecting you to come discover your dreams and make your ideas take flight. Just like so many explorers that came before you. Welcome to the hub of opportunity. Welcome to St. Louis. Always exploring.
I'm Steve Potter. Welcome back to City Corner. Today we've got some great travel ideas for you. We've been talking with Joe Lange from Joe Lange Travel about some great travel ideas from St. Louis, based from St. Louis and going out. We're going to expand that a little bit. Please welcome our next guest. That's Mary Murin from Tauk River and Small Ship Cruising. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
I've had a hard time saying Tauk because it's spelled T-A-U-C-K, but am I the only one?
No, no. In fact, the grandson of the founder of our company, his name's Peter, and he will always say, "I'm Peter Tauk from Tauk Tours."
Oh, good. I don't feel so bad now.
No.
You're a St. Louis-based company.
We are a Connecticut-based company, but I'm a St. Louisan.
How does that work?
Well, I was born and raised here and then got into the travel business about 20 years ago. And when my son was born, I was one of our cruise directors on European river cruising. And I came back to St. Louis, and now I manage North America. So being based in St. Louis is a pretty good spot.
But can you imagine being able to tell people that you manage North America? I wish I could say that. What's your, Joe, I know that you've known Mary a few years, but I think you've been working with the company she works with for a lot. And is that one of a dozen companies you work with, or how does that all work?
Yes, Tauk is one of a number of tour companies that I work with. And yes, while they're not based here, a number of the tour companies are based in other parts of the USA, but coordinate travel worldwide.
Mm-hmm. So, Mary, tell me a little bit about Tauk River Cruises. Do you do any of the cruises based in St. Louis, or what exactly do you do?
So Tauk, our river cruises are strictly European. And we are on the Rhine, Main, Danube, Rhone, Saône, Seine, and on one beautiful itinerary through your homeland, ancestral homeland, we go down the Moselle River in Germany.
We were talking about that before the show. Yeah, that's good to know. We have an image I want to show on the screen. I want you to explain it because I'm a big fan of Ken Burns.
Yes.
And I didn't have any idea what Ken Burns would have to do with your travel company.
So our travel company is...
Tell us what we're looking at, too.
So right now we're looking at a slide of Ken Burns. And while I am Tauk's cruising specialist, Ken is a part of our North American product line. So we go all over the world, whether it's river cruising, small ship cruising, or land trips. And Ken has partnered with us for our land American journeys. In fact, Apple Computer went to Ken before we did and said, would you have a partnership with us? And he turned them down several times before he allowed them to have the Ken Burns effect for their products. But when we went to Ken, he quickly realized that what Tauk offers and what he offers had such beautiful symmetry.
How's that?
He is the premier North American storyteller.
Right.
With such eloquence, he tells the story of the Civil War or the Roosevelts or the Vietnam War or jazz or baseball. And what we do is deliver that experience. So when we come together, we find that the sum of our parts are even greater as a whole.
Exotic trips.
Bucket list trips.
I've got a few on my bucket list, I have to admit, yes.
So some are small ship cruising, but mostly we're talking about Australia, New Zealand, Africa.
Which one are we looking at now?
We're looking at India. It's one of the beautiful Oberoi resorts that we use in India.
So, you know, a lot of the things we were talking about, Joe, about the local cruises that start in St. Louis are a day or two long sometimes. When you're talking about Europe, I guess, how long could they be?
So the longest trip that we do begins in Amsterdam and ends in Bucharest. So it's a 23-day trip that goes all along the Rhine, Main, and Danube rivers.
Joe, I know that you must have done a few of those yourself right?
I am maybe getting ready to do one of those, as a matter of fact, over on that general territory.
I can't imagine. I've never been so fortunate to have a 22 cruise or anything anywhere. That must be a totally different experience, like you're in a different world.
Absolutely. You know, you can do the 7-day, you can do a 14-day, you can do a 21-day. You can also do a lot of add-ons. So, for example, if you're going to take one of the river cruises that's embarks from, say, Budapest, you are going to want to go to Budapest at least a couple of days early to experience the city before you get on the river ship.
That makes sense. I want to look at a couple more images, and Mary, you can explain it more. This one you sort of labeled Bridges. What do you mean by that?
Bridges, Tauk is a family company, 93 years now, and going strong, heading toward our 100th year. And when the third generation took over, we realized that it's always been a family company. And Bridges is the way that we describe bridging the generations and bringing families together for culturally enriching travel that is multi-generational. And it takes a really unique person to deliver an experience that appeals to all three generations.
So is that part of what you do exactly, is figuring out, if I come to you wanting to take a trip, maybe I'm not very experienced before, you help me figure out what it is I'm looking for if I don't even really know?
You know, that's Joe's area of expertise, and what we do is work seamlessly together. So if someone came and sat down with Joe and said, you know, I'm thinking about, it's my 50th wedding anniversary, I'm thinking about taking a river cruise. Hopefully, Joe would say, you know, Tauck has 4 bridges itineraries.
He says that
I
a lot,
think
though. You say that a lot, right, Joe?
I do.
Okay.
Might just work for you. Yeah.
And you know,
So how do you handle that, customizing a trip for an individual? That could be challenging sometimes, I think.
So, you know, we sit down with each, or over the telephone, or over email, or Twitter,
Oh, don't go there.
or cell phone, or whatever device is preferable for the client or method. And I ask a lot of questions.
Like, what would you want to know from me if I came to you?
Have you thought about where you would like to visit? How long would you like to go for? What kinds of accommodations would you like? And where have you stayed in the past? Because a lot of what I find out from people, if I have a general idea about the hotels, for example, that they stayed in previously, I know the kind of hotel or a river ship accommodation, for example, to place them in that they would be the most comfortable in.
Because I guess some people, maybe some individuals might like more frills than others.
Some might, yes. Everybody is different and has a different level of type of travel and type of accommodation that they like.
And I would think your top priority, because of course you want repeat business. So I'm sure you work very hard at making sure that everybody has their dream vacation.
We absolutely do, and Tauck is one of the best at it. Once you have a Tauck experience, the likelihood is that you're going to go back.
Really. Mary, let's look at our next image. And our story defines us. What does this mean to you?
It means that in 1925, Arthur Tauck Jr., a traveling salesman in New England, put some people in the back of his Studebaker and went off to share with them the beauty that he was seeing. And he noticed nobody else was going there for pleasure. And he bundled that experience into one upfront price. He guided it himself. And those people went out word of mouth and told their friends, and those friends told friends. And now here we are 93 years later with that same guiding principle that if a trip is better because there are fewer people with a higher level of service, where everything is bundled into one upfront price, no surprises, except the good kind is what we like to say.
Right.
That's what really, we don't have a list of things, we just like to say to ourselves, what would Arthur do?
Huh. How does the economy affect travel? And maybe it doesn't. When times are tougher, do you change the kinds of trips that you're offering because people have less money? How conscious are you of the current economy, and does that make any difference? Is that too complicated?
Well, we are very conscious of the economy, but we also know that in the case of Tauck and a number of other companies, that cutting corners is just not even part of the equation. Because once you do that, you're compromising your trip and the experience, and it's all about the experience and all about the people and the food and the culture, and that always has to be top-notch.
Mary, I want to ask you, because I know kind of have an insight on what Joe does. He's dealing with the travelers themselves. What exactly do you do on your end of the job?
On my end, well, currently I work with partners like Joe. And
Travel
I go all
agents around the country.
Travel agents around the country. When I was a cruise director, I worked with our guests on the ship. And in the current role, I not only have the great pleasure of working with Joe, but I also have a team in our Connecticut office called Cruise Architects. And they spend 2 years knocking on doors of small museums and going to beautiful private chateaus and saying, we're a family business, would you like to do business with us? Because it's our mission at Tauck to introduce our guests to things that they could never experience if they traveled with anyone else or tried to do it themselves.
What are we looking at here, Mary?
We are looking at one of the beautiful ports.
Mary.
I'm sorry. That's the port of Hvar in Croatia. So that's one of our beautiful partnership ships from company Ponant. And in 2019, we'll be introducing 4 gorgeous new explorer ships, 180 people maximum. Takes us into small ports of call where other big ships can't go. Oh,
so you're talking about small ports, not small ships.
They are small ships that also have access to small ports.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
That's interesting. Joe, where are some of the interesting places that Tauck is going that you've been recommending to people lately or will be this summer or something like that?
Well, one of the most popular ones actually is with Tauck Bridges to Costa Rica. This is an incredible multi-generational grandparents, adult kids, and grandkids all traveling together on an adventure. There are also several USA destinations, and Africa, of course, has become extremely popular.
I'd love to see Africa. When I think of a cruise, I always think of something, you know, tropical. But I know my dad went on an Alaskan cruise a few years ago. How popular is something like that?
I'll let Mary talk a little bit about Tauck in Alaska.
Extremely popular. Just to be able to pull into the small ports of call. You know, you go to the big places that everyone goes to, like Ketchikan. But to be able to watch icebergs calving and get off and just have that gorgeous natural beauty to yourselves in the morning, that's what we strive to do, and I think that's what we accomplish when we have our small ships.
Let's look at this last image, and it kind of deals with is how we view the world. What I'm looking for is how you see the world matters. I may have messed up your
No, that's
thing
perfect.
a little bit. Is that right?
Yes.
Explain that.
So if you receive our brochures or go on our website, you'll see the tagline, how you see the world matters. And it's our mantra. It's how we craft every single trip. So it really has to do with personal experiences, the how of it. You don't want to be a tourist checking off boxes. You want to be Steve Potter on a trip, experiencing your heritage and fulfilling your dreams and having a team anticipating
You're getting me
your
all
dreams.
excited now.
Yeah.
Fulfilling my dreams, wow. Joe, we just have less than a minute left. What would you recommend to somebody, maybe the inexperienced St. Louisan, that wants to start with a short trip? How do they start looking into this?
Steve, it's very simple. Just simply get in touch with me. You can email me, go through my website, give me a call, any of those ways, and let's have a discussion. We'll start out, I'll find a little bit about you when you call me, and you'll find out about what I do. And by the way, it's the 25th anniversary of my travel practice this year.
No kidding, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's amazing. Mary, any advice that you might have to, how about the person, there are people out there that have never, aside from their own station wagon on the highway, maybe have never gone on a bigger trip than that. What would you say to them?
I would say don't wait until you've retired. Start thinking about what you want to do and your travel goals, and get out there and see this beautiful world, and speak to someone like Joe, and really think about how much you spend on a travel experience, not just how much the river cruise cost, but how much you're spending on the airfare and your food and beverage and shore excursions and all the additional things. Those are really important factors when you're making your decision.
Joe, and I bet you get a lot of feedback from people after they do a local trip or a European trip. What makes you happy? What do people say to you that make you happy when they come back?
Overwhelmingly, Steve, people come home and they say thank you for sending me on this trip.
Well, Joe, thank you, and Mary, thank you for telling us how to launch this thing.
Thank
So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking for some vacation ideas in the coming year, and you've helped a lot. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
I'm Steve Potter. I'm ready for a trip. I don't know about you, but join us next time on City Corner. Thanks for watching.